the backdrop, a new addition to my bookshelf. It looks like a brand new, slightly used bottle of whiskey with a crooked label. Chase, you gave this whiskey to me for my birthday, and it feels like a cruel joke because I'm OCD and everything has to be perfectly placed.
I
So,
might swap you out because I happen to have multiple versions of that. That's Remus Repeal Reserve Series 7. They're on series, I think they're on series 10 right now. And I have 5 and 6 at my house too, and I'll check the labels. I didn't even look, I promise.
well,
But
my thought is it's a misplaced label. It might be worth like 10x its
yeah,
normal value because of
yeah.
the mistake.
Well, if people start drinking the labels, that could be true, but I don't think that's the case. So it's a master blender basically. So I guess to give you a little bit of uh, some history on this, just so you guys understand, like there's all sorts of ways that whiskey is bottled and presented, and obviously marketing is a massive part of whiskey. But um, one of the things you might recognize if you go look at any whiskey, you can see like small batch. What that typically it's not, the name does not necessarily match reality. A small batch is like, it could be 100 barrels, it could be 100,000 barrels. They blend them all together, they cut them with water, and then they produce a product. So like a lot of like your major whiskeys will be considered a small batch, like a Jack Daniels, Wild Turkey, that kind of stuff. Then you have what's called a single barrel, and a single barrel is the all of the whiskey came from one barrel. So
Mm.
they didn't blend multiple barrels together, but single barrel typically means they cut it with water to get to a certain proof. So the barrel might have been at 150 proof, which is, super high. And maybe they cut it down to like 100 proof. So, um, yeah. And then lastly, you have barrel strength, which means they didn't cut it with water. So it's from a single barrel and they didn't cut it with water. Well, typically that's single barrel strength. Sometimes they'll mix multiple barrels at barrel strength. But what's my point? This particular one is actually blended from 5 different bourbons. And one of the cool things is they've blended it to the master distiller's, palate, what this person likes. And they have a 2007 in that one, a 2013, a 2000, two 2013s, different rye bills, and then they have two 2014s. And so the average blended age is between 10 and 16 years, and then they cut it to 100 proof. And it's very famous. This Remus Repeal is very famous for just tasting great. So I don't think it's one of those things where you put it on yourself and you wait 50 years and it's worth a bunch more. It might be, but this is more of a high quality drink, my friend. So enjoy
Perfect.
it.
Well, thank you. I will take the crooked label any day of the week to have a good whiskey pour. So,
Yeah, it should be great. So uh, we were, shifting gears a little bit. One of the things we've been talking about recently is this pace model. And I don't know how much we want to go into here on the podcast. We could probably start high level. Just what does pace stand for? Do you want me to jump in on that, or you got it?
well, I'll give the 10,000 foot why we created pace and why we teach it to our agents and our coaching clients. I personally believe that anything transitioned into a model is going to perform better. And this is a model that takes moves from prospecting to working with an active client. So the steps that you would take in that. So PACE stands for prospect, anchor, consult, and execute. And prospect. It
Well, let's
sounds
back up. What
yeah,
we're talking about is like a framework
correct.
for helping buyers and sellers, right?
Framework for helping buyers and sellers, and inside of that framework, step by step best practices to improve the experience for the consumer and improve the conversion for the agent.
Got it. So let's maybe tease one of them, because I think, people might understand, like, well, yeah, I prospect and I'll find someone that wants to buy or sell, and then I'll do my thing. I'm special. Everyone loves me, Brent. Just get me in front of people. I'm great. Blah 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 blah. So why don't we? Which one do you want to go deep on? Because I don't think we'll do all of them here, but which one do you want to go a little bit deeper on?
I mean, to me, what we're discovering, the most important one in the uh, conversion process is anchor.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's the most important, so just for clarity here, anchor is the time between when you set the appointment and when you meet the client. And traditionally, what most agents think is they're going to be interviewed and selected at the appointment. And the anchor process suggests that if you do a good enough job up front, you're selected before the appointment.
So specifically, what we're talking about is, you do your prospecting, or even you get referred someone. You might not have done any prospecting, but you get referred someone. You set an appointment for X amount of time. Obviously, we encourage, the sooner the appointment, the higher the likelihood of success. But whatever, you nail that down as quick as you can. So let's say I get an appointment today and it's Thursday, but my appointment's going to be next Monday. So we're talking about the gap between today and next Monday is what we're talking
Correct.
about, right?
Yep.
So let me break down the logical thing of what happens, and then
Yeah.
you'll bring the antidote, if you will. So here's what actually happens. That as people, as human beings, we only have so many things in life that are interesting to talk about, right? Like, it's football season, so how about the football team, or how about that game? How about the weather? Wow, the leaves are beautiful, and man, it got cold fast. Oh, it's getting dark sooner. Okay, got it. We have these common things we talk about over and over and over. Then every now and then there's some exciting things that affect us, and it affects everyone, and everyone wants to talk about it. Like, I'm having a baby, or I'm buying a home. So now you've made the decision. You set an appointment with me, Brent, and I'm like, hey, I'm meeting with Brent to talk about buying a home. I talk to, let's say, on average, 5 different people per day. So today's Thursday. That's one day. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and let's just say I meet you first thing Monday morning. So I'm only 4 days of me talking to people. Okay. In those 4 days, I'm going to talk to 20 people, and I'm going to mention that I'm buying a house. Do you think I'm going to get some opinions along the way?
Absolutely 100%.
Okay. Okay. And even if only half of those have some sort of opinion that could shift things, I'd say half of those are going to recommend a different realtor. They're going to say, "Oh my gosh, you have to use my guy or my girl or whatever. They're the best." And then I think the other half are going to be like, "You can't afford a house," or "Why would you buy right now? It's awful market," or like something to protect them with quotes. So this is why anchor is important. If you feel like, if you're setting appointments and people aren't showing up, or if you're setting appointments and then people are ghosting you, get your pens out and get ready to write some stuff down, because we're gonna help you implement some things to really anchor the relationship and protect that appointment. So how do we do that, Brent?
Well, I think we need to back up just a little bit into the prospect for just a brief moment, because you mentioned something that I think is really important, which is, like, what if it was a referral? Like, maybe you didn't prospect them. Well, prospecting is not just looking for the client, it's also prospecting their interest. So, like, inspecting their interest. And so, one of the ways to guard yourself, to set yourself up for an appropriate anchor, is to do what we call the motivation framework. And so, when you're prospecting their interest, you do this motivation framework, which then in turn allows you to handle some of these uh, pre-objections that they might hear from people they're talking to. So like if they're like, you can't afford a house, they'll be like, well, actually, I've already talked to Brent and we have a plan. We're gonna talk more about it, whatever. But you can prepare them to have responses so they don't start questioning, whether or not they should be doing it. So now we can move into the anchor. Basically, once you had a great prospecting session and you've done everything you're supposed to do, you drive into the anchor. And again, like you said, the anchor is from appointment set to appointment met. And the goal here is to eliminate any competition and also have them select you before you show up. So you're not going to the consult it's not called an interview. It's called a consult. And so you're not going to the consult to get interviewed. You're going to the consult to consult them on what the process is going to look like and how you're going to help them get to the finish line. Right. And so the few pieces of the anchor that this is the part where you might want to write it down is we highly recommend people have what we call a buyer or seller authority pack. And this is something that gets emailed out. It could be your buyer guide. It could be reviews, testimonials, what to expect next. So you're setting them up, and this is a touch. And then the next touch would be a video text, which is extremely important and probably left out 99% of the time, and will set you apart from anybody else that they may be interviewing. And you just send a simple video text. Hey, it's our appointment's in 2 days. Just wanted to prep you, make sure that you got my email and you reviewed it. And here are the 3 things we're going to go over when we sit down. Want to make sure that you're aware of those things up front so we can have a really effective meeting.
Yeah, and I'll give them those 3 things super fast.
Yeah.
Let's just assume this is a buyer, right? I think that's kind of where the path we're on here.
Yeah.
Seller's going to be different. And again, this is why in this setting we can't go, super, super in depth over the whole PACE model. But my favorite 3 things to pitch to close for the buyer consult. So I would do this during the prospecting phase. And then of course I would follow through on it during the anchor phase, which is when we meet, I'm going to answer all the questions you have, even the ones you don't know to ask. That's 1. 2, I'm going to set up a custom search so we can see all the homes that are on the market. Plus, I can cross-reference it against homes that are off market. And that's a whole nother beast, which is an amazing tool to have in your back pocket, off market. And then number 3, I'm going to, we'll make sure that you and I are a good fit. And we can help you achieve your goals. So essentially you're hinting at like, we're a good fit. Okay. And I've had clients, Brent, by the way, that are like, will you work with me when we're done with the consultation? And I tee that up like, hey, I have thousands of customers, but I only have a handful of clients that I choose to work with, which is totally true. You have thousands of people on your website that are looking all the time. And you only have a few that you actually are actively working with, and not everyone fits into that equation.
Well, there's scarcity in exclusiveness, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So there's power in that.
Awesome. So you're doing this stuff. Okay, I've sent them the buyer authority pack. That's via email. I'm probably going to text them the video. What's actually happening here? Like, what are they? I've already set the appointment. Now we're gone. Now I'm following through with that buyer authority pack, which I think you mentioned buyer guide, reviews, testimonials, timelines, stuff like that. Then I'm going to follow through with a video text. So now they've got my face and my name. I'm also, Brent, investing time.
There you go.
So what does that do?
Well, there's and by the way, like you could manufacture some more touches, which is a whole nother conversation for another day. With a pre-appointment plan, some manufactured touches that show time invested and create more connection between you and them, between the appointment. And so here's the thing, the psychology behind this, and this is, for lack of better words, a better way of describing it, but the goal is to create a form of obligation where the consumer feels more obligated to work with you. And it's because of the time invested, but also because of the level of trust that they've built internally with you through what you've been delivering. So you've had a really solid motivational framework done at the prospect phase. They already feel really heard and connected because you've done that well. But now you're delivering these other things that show your investment in their journey and their success, which builds trust and obligation.
Yeah, I mean, obligation, yeah, that's probably not the best word, but you're on the right track. Like
Yeah,
when you're investing time in them, they're investing time reading the things you're saying, so they're investing time in you too.
correct.
And they don't want to necessarily do that with 17 different realtors.
Yeah, a better way of saying it is they probably, instead of feeling obligated to you, they feel obligated to the process. Like, I've already invested my time in this. I don't
There
want
you
to
go.
waste my time and do it again.
Yeah, and why is that important? Well, go back to what I teed up earlier. It's Thursday. I'm not meeting until Monday. I've got 10 realtors being suggested to me. I let them know, no, my realtor, like this person's got it going on, man. They've already look at what they've sent me. They've sent me this and this, and they've already answered a bunch of questions, and
Maybe you
I'm
win a
definitely
couple
going to
extra
meet with them.
clients in those conversations too.
Yeah, you might be picking up extra clients exactly because they're going to be sharing their experience, and someone else is going to be like, you can't afford to buy, and you might have already during the prospecting phase said, hey, you don't actually need 20% down. You
Yeah.
can actually get away with 3 or a half a percent or whatever programs are available. And they're like, whoa, whoa, you can buy with a half percent. Can I get your realtor's number? So yeah, it's massive. And I feel like we haven't even gone through the entire anchor piece, but we could probably spend, the next 20 minutes on it if we wanted to. I know we got some other stuff to shift to. Is there anything else you want to mention before we move on?
I just the piece that I want anybody to leave with, the one thing, the one thought is you want the buyer or the seller to feel like they've already started working with you. That's it. And
Future
so,
pacing.
yeah, you're future pacing the relationship, and that alone will set you apart from your competition, and you will win before you show up for the appointment, which is the goal. So you can have a true consult, and they already trust you. So now you're guiding them versus trying to win the appointment.
Yeah. So let's do, we'll tease this.
Okay.
But here's one of my favorite future pacing questions when you have a listing, okay? And it's very simple, Brent. It's like, hey, when I come out to list your home, what are the top 3 things you expect from me as your real estate agent? So that's a question that we ask before we go out. We ask it to the seller before we go on the appointment. And I just teed up 2 things. Like when I come out to list your home, that I'm future pacing. I'm going to list your house. That's why I'm coming out. And then the second piece is, what do you expect from me as your agent? I'm your agent. I'm going to list your house. I'm your agent. I'm going to list your house. I'm your agent. And the client, trust me, having done this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers and clients, they never say, you're not listing my house. You're not going to be my agent. They just answer the question. They're like, well, I need you to be honest, and I want you to price it correctly, and I
Yep.
want you to help me, get the most amount of money. Like that's what they do. And you're just planting these little seeds. So it's super fun. I love the pace model. We have the whole model. We probably need to do a full class on this, Brent. Don't you think? This is
Yeah. I
it,
mean, we're getting prepared for our company advance to go off site and teach our agents, and this is a big part of it, right? Is reestablishing everybody's commitment to the process, and Anchor is a huge piece of it.
well, I think it's worth transitioning just slightly. If you want to stay on top of stuff like this, you probably should be a part of our new daily growth, which
Yeah.
is going to be launching in November. So we're recording this. It's the middle of October. Here in 2 weeks, we're going to be launching our first daily growth. It's literally every day, Monday through Friday, for a half an hour. You can spend time with me or Brent or both of us, depending on what's going on. And we're going to be discussing things just like this, like, We found that we need to be available more often, and we need to be able to help people adapt to the market of the moment. And what better way to do that than do it every day? So we'll make sure there's a link somewhere. You can go follow us on Instagram. That's an easy way to get to daily growth and a lot of our free tools. I'm guarantee you when we have this pace model class up and ready, you can find it on our Instagram page. There's going to be a link right on our profile. Our Instagram is reg.network. So that's Real Estate Growth Network. And if you just look that up, you can find us. We also post a lot of fun stuff on there.
Well,
So.
Chase, that sounds amazing, but like, I don't want to pay for daily growth.
Oh, well, yeah. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. It's free, 100% free.
Okay.
No obligation. Obviously, we just need to know that you're a real estate agent. So we'll get your name and email and phone number, and you're in. And everyone who's in Daily Growth gets access to a ton of free tools. So yeah, good.
And by the way, like, if you can't make the time, if you're a part of Daily Growth, the recordings will be released every day, so you can watch it at your leisure. So, but here's what I found, and then we can move on. But what I've found is, we started doing Daily Growth for our organization a long time ago, years ago, and it's been proven the most successful companies in the world start their day with some kind of a daily launch or a daily huddle or a daily growth type framework. Well, here's the thing. In real estate, most of us are part of brokerages. We're alone. There's no true daily connection where we can launch our day and start thinking about business from the onset and get ideas to generate more business at the very beginning of your day, which inevitably, when you start your day that way, will make you more successful. So that's
I can't stress that enough. We've been doing daily growth for a long time. I mean, over a decade, and real estate can be super lonely. Even if you're talking to people all day, every day, there's not a lot of people that are going through what you're going through. So join us and have a community. We'd love to have you. So you ready to dive into a little bit of news?
Yeah, let's do it, man.
All right. So one of the top things over the last week and a half or so is Zillow becoming the only real estate app inside of OpenAI's Chat GPT. So quick summary, Zillow just launched its own app inside ChatGPT, making the only real estate app currently integrated with the AI chatbot. Users can now ask ChatGPT for homes or rentals in a region, filter options, see maps and photos, and when ready, jump into Zillow to schedule tours or connect with agents. So their feature suggests apps contextually. So Zillow surfaced as a relevant tool. Zillow says they support most listing types and are working to bring in new construction listings and immersive features later. So it's funny, this is going to impact your business, period. How do you think it impacts a real estate agent's business in the short term, Brent? Like, how do you think it shows up?
Well, let me just put it this way. Like, what is the new way to search for information? Like, it's not Google anymore. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, the fastest growing search engine right now is definitely ChatGPT.
Right. And so what's happening is people are migrating off of using Google to find out information to using ChatGPT. So let's just be clear. That's the one thing that's really the same is now Zillow is on ChatGPT instead of Google. Zillow had a large stronghold on Google, which caught buyer and seller attention. And that's where they searched. And I think 80 some odd % of buyers are searching on Zillow. So that's not going to change. I think now they're just going to be on ChatGPT, and will it make it easier for them? Yes. But the underlying thing that I like, here's the biggest thing. Will it change your business? Yes. If the biggest thing is buyers want, they want to work with someone they trust. And I don't know how close we are to them trusting technology or a robot. Maybe that'll happen sometime in the future. But the reality is trust comes from three things: character, competence, and capacity. And unfortunately, for a robot will never have character, in my opinion, um, because there are innate things inside of character that are just human. And a robot can, I mean, right now, ChatGPT hallucinates and will give you data that is completely wrong.
It wants to
And
serve you, so it wants
totally
to answer your
out
question.
of
And
great intention, right? But
yeah,
that's a
yep,
character flaw. That is a
yep.
character flaw. And can it have competence? Yes. But again, there's still challenges with
Well, it's
competence.
also only as competent as you are, right? So if you're the person
Yeah.
putting questions in, you're putting the prompts in,
Yeah.
and you don't know what to ask, you're going to get answers that may or may not serve you.
Exactly. But where it might win is capacity. And so that this is actually where most agents lose is capacity. So as an agent, what I would be thinking about is how do I manage myself through systems and processes? How do I leverage AI to manage myself? How do I manage my calendar? And how do I always do what I say I'm going to do at the time I'm going to do it? I'm supposed to do it. Which, because we know, Chase, right? We judge ourselves off of our intentions, but we judge others off of action. And our consumers are the exact same. They're going to judge if you show up late, or you don't do something you said you're going to do, or you miss a deadline or whatever. They're going to think you're dumb, or they're going to think you have low character. They're not going to think, oh, well, they're just busy, even though it's likely you just are over capacity. So, anyways, just to back up, and then I want to hear what your thoughts are. Like, relationships and trust will win, but then you also need a system to maintain those relationships, because it takes a lot of relationships to win in real estate.
Yeah, I saw a different coaching company. I'm not going to mention who they are or throw them under the bus.
What does it rhyme with? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. But they said, hey, this is in here, and here's the deal. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to write all these listing things into ChatGPT or into your listing, so it spits it out in ChatGPT. Which, first of all, I think is bullshit. Like, you're not going to need to do that at all.
No.
Secondly, even if you did need to do that, all you're doing, in my opinion, is arming Zillow with better information to give to clients, so when they're ready, that they can sell that client to whoever's willing to pay on Zillow. So if you're on Zillow and you like to pay for Zillow leads, great. You should do all that. If you don't, I mean, Zillow's not doing this for out of charity.
No.
This is 100% for them to capture more business and then sell it to agents. And there's a possibility in the future, which they've tried already, and who knows if they'll try to get in, but you need to be prepared. There's a possibility that they actually, decide, what, we're going to just service these leads ourselves. We're going to start the Zillow brokerage, which again, is already started, but it hasn't really made any waves. I think they backed off on that. So here's what I would expect. First of all, I know right away it's going to be shitty. And what I mean by that is, from a search tool, you're like, hey, I want to find homes that have an east facing backyard with, X amount of blah, 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 blah. It's not going to be able to do that right away. So the trust early on is going to be probably pretty poor. I think people are going to go on, they're going to use it, and they're going to realize it doesn't do what they want it to, and they prefer the old way. That's my guess, Brent.
Yeah.
So we'll see how wrong I am. But I don't think it's going to be that great. And the reason is, like, we don't put a lot of that information inside of listings as it is, and maybe in the future they'll ask for even more detailed information so we can make the AI smarter. But those kind of things don't exist. You have to look on a map, and you got to, like, which way is it positioned and what's the surrounding neighborhoods. You're not going to be able to type, like, it has to be in a good area, because it's going to say that violates fair housing for me to tell you what a good area is. So there's going to be a lot of things that are left to be desired from this service. So, but like anything on technology, you can bet your hiney it's going to get better. So, however bad it is today, and it won't be great. Let's say it's like a 6 out of 10 today. it's probably not going to take more than a few months or maybe a year to be at a 7 or an 8 out of 10. And then eventually this just might be the way it is. Someone might just set up, you as a realtor might be setting up searches inside of OpenAI and saving them for your clients. I mean, who knows? So anything else on that, or should we move on to another article?
Well, if you're an agent who wants to subvert buying leads from Zillow, you need to invest in a smart, curated touch program to stay in front of your people, to stay top of mind with your people. You need to understand manufacturer touches. Like all of those things are going to become more and more important. And if you're sitting back here thinking that you're just going to be able to do real estate the way you've been doing it, which is on the back of a napkin, and you're just, people are referred to you and you talk to them and you do a good job, and then more people are referred to you, the landscape is changing and relationships matter even more. And it's a game of systems and scale for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. So let's talk about the housing market. We got a couple things here. I think this one's a little bit more important, at least right now. So, housing market expected to stay weak as high rates suppress demand. So, analysts warn the United States housing market will struggle in the near term because mortgage rates remain high and affordability is under pressure. Demand is being choked off even where supply loosens, and many homeowners are reluctant to move because they're locked into low rates. Obviously, that's not news to any of you that have been a real estate agent for any period of time. The net effect, modest price growth at best, sluggish turnover, and more importance on differentiation for agents. So there's a bunch of other articles that kind of tie into this, and it would take too long to go into them, but housing starts are down right now quite a bit. The average price for builders nationally has come down significantly over the last 3 years. I saw a stat from Lennar, and I think it was something like, it's down like 30% from the peak in 2022. Their average build price. Now, a lot of that I think is just being prudent, right? They were worried with rates going up, so they started building less expensive homes, and that
Yeah.
may or may not have worked out for them. But okay, if the national market outlook is weak, what should agents focus on at the local level to remain busy? Brent, what are some, you just mentioned relationships. I'm sure that's part of it, but
Yeah, well, I mean, we were in a coaching conversation yesterday, and I think this is something that should be considered in all types of markets, but it's especially more important right now because it's designed to create educational opportunities. But having an understanding, really strong MOFers, I'll explain what that is in a second, and a distribution process for those MOFers puts you in front of people that are open to being educated around if it's possible to buy. So here's an example. So first of all, MOFR stands for make offer for immediate response. What that actually means is you send out a message that aligns with what would cause someone to move or sell, that you know about, that they might not know about, that causes them to be interested to reach out to you. Okay. So you sit back here and you say, all right, with this, slowdown in the market, let's call it the slowdown in the market. What do buyers need or want in order to make a move? And like, if you answer those questions, I think everybody's got their ear to the ground. They're probably hearing what buyers want: lower rates, more affordable payment.
yeah. What are
Okay,
the
so
objections,
there you
right?
go. What are the objections?
Yeah.
Sellers, affordability. I don't want my payment to go up. I want a bigger house, but I don't, my the cost of the house plus the cost of the rate is going to cause blah blah blah. And so if you know those things, you build your messaging around addressing those things and you send it out. So Chase, what do I mean by that? Like maybe you can give me an example when I say build a message around something that aligns with what they actually want in order to get them to reach out to you.
Well, I mean, I already mentioned builders struggling, right? Well, what are they doing? They have big marketing budgets.
By the
They
way,
have
they've
big,
mastered the art of mofer.
yeah. They have big marketing budgets. They have big brains behind this. You can just rip off what they're doing. So what do I mean by that? You could look at your local area and pull up builders. You might have national builders, you might have local builders, but pull up what are they doing? A lot of them have promos. You don't have to go very hard to find the promotions that they're providing. For example, in our town right now in the Boise area, there's a builder advertising a 2.99% interest rate. And so I can advertise that to my
Mm,
clients, and
yeah.
I can send a simple email that just says, "Hey, I'm not sure if you're interested, but I thought this was too good of information to share. You can currently buy a home in our town for 2.99%. Do you know anyone? Would you or anyone be interested in finding out more information?" And so you grab these different, things, and you might have known about this for years because builders have been offering incentives for, ever since the rates went up. 3 years ago, builders have been offering incentives, but they're getting more and more aggressive because they want to win and they want to make sure they're moving product. So that's a mofer right there. That's
Well,
a
and by
pretty
giving a
simple one.
lower interest rate, it protects their values too. Like
Correct.
they are dropping their prices. We looked at some builders yesterday when we were doing some market analysis, and it was like, holy cow, they've dropped 10% in the last, seems like 6 months.
Yeah.
And so, but they don't want to do that. They want to do everything they can to not do that because obviously that protects their margins. So they would rather give pre-purchase interest rates up front and give incentivized interest rates to get people to buy. So, yeah, you get to leverage that in your messaging. Now, someone calls and they don't want to buy that builder's house. So now 2.99 isn't an option. What position are you in because they called? And let's say they don't want that, but
Yeah.
now you're talking to them.
Yeah, well, first of all, now you're talking to them. That's the game, right? You're finally talking to them, so you're already 80% better than you were. So what do you do now? I mean, I think there's a number of things. One, I would partner with a local lender that you like and you've done business with, and ask them like, "Hey, if someone comes in and they can't take advantage of this because they don't like that builder or don't like the area or they don't provide what they want, what can we do?" And I mean, we know, and I don't want to nerd out too much, but like we know that we can go negotiate on a resale home and ask them for seller concessions, and we can use those seller concessions to buy the rate down if we need
Right.
to. If that's the most important thing. So,
Yep.
um,
Well, here's the thing, and the message I want to get across to agents is the um, the better you get at moving away from solving their problem and moving into understanding why they even want to move in the first place, it's a better position to be in. Because, for instance, if they're like, well, yeah, I wanted a 2.9 rate. And you're like, well, okay, let's talk about like other ways we can get your rate down. Right now, you're in this problem solving mode. And let's say you can work out the numbers to get them to an affordable payment or a rate, but in their head they hear 4.9, and they're just like, yeah, that's just not going to work for me. Well, if you take that off the table, you have them, you're now talking to them, you put them through what we call the motivational framework, and you figured out what it is that's actually causing them to want to move. Like, no kidding, want to move. Not like, hey, I need a bigger yard, but like, when I was younger, I had a yard to run in, and my kids don't have that, and I want them to have that, whatever. You find that out, and then it turns into, well, hey, if we could find a way to make that work and keep your housing budget close to the same as where it's at now, would you want to buy today? You ask the rubber meets the road question. And if it's like, if they say no for whatever reason, hypothetically, well, then the problem solving wouldn't have done anything anyways.
yeah,
So you wasted a ton of time. So I
yeah,
think
yeah, and that
the goal is to
it,
move into the motivation framework as soon as possible.
well, and I think it unlocks the ability to have a conversation too, because a lot of people have equity. I mean, I think 50%
Mhm.
of homes are owned, cash, and the other 50% of the mortgages have 50% or more equity. So there's tons of equity tied up. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand how money works, including agents. So agents, listen up. Why do you think they want a lower rate? most of the time it's driven by their payment. But why do they want a low payment? Well, you might be thinking, well, duh, everyone wants a low payment. No, no, no. You're not paying attention. It's outgoing money every month. So
Mhm.
what if they have $150,000 in equity and they have 2 car payments and a credit card bill and, some other form of debt, and all that added up is 60 grand. And they could buy a new house at a rate you can get today, 6%, six and a quarter, whatever. And you could help them with their equity, pay off all that debt, and then their monthly payments, even with the higher rate, are less now than what they were living where they're at. So they're in the home they want with lower monthly payments.
Saving
Like,
money, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
you can't get to that conversation without getting someone to raise their hand.
Yeah.
So,
Love that.
and if that sounded complicated, rewind this or whatever you do. I click back. Well, I don't know, whatever. You understand what I'm saying. Go back, listen to it again, write it out. You understand this at a high level. You can help people at a high level. And guess what, Brent? If you help someone do that, like you literally taught them something they didn't even know was possible, and they are ecstatic that you made it happen. What do you think happens on the referral side of your business?
It booms.
It is
It booms.
massive. So,
Well, yeah, because they know people like them. They're gonna be like, I saved money and I got it in my house. You should do
yeah.
it too.
Oh,
It's
you
just
got to
gonna happen.
talk to Brent. He's a wizard. He's a magician. I can't. We didn't think we could ever move.
All right. Well, that was a great conversation. I think the news sounds scarier than it actually is. I think prepared real estate agents are well positioned for a great 2026. So if you're not prepared, get prepared. Be ready with great mofers, great conversation hacks and frameworks so you can win the moment, because a lot of people are going to buy and sell next year. Wells Fargo predicts that there are actually going to be more sales next year than this year. So we'll see. But if you're
Yeah.
prepared, you're going to get your unfair share for sure.
I would agree with that, and I do think, I mean, some things that no one understands, because we read that Fargo report. We've read all these articles. We try and stay on top of all this stuff, so we can share it here and in our other coaching opportunities. And here's something I would just encourage you to consider: AI is like the fourth, industrial revolution, as it's been called. It's a massive, massive change, and when these changes come in, no one knows how they're going to impact the economy. And our mortgage rates are driven by the purchase of bonds, and those bonds are purchased based on what people believe is going to happen in the future in the United States. And if you look at the AI players, the biggest AI players, NVIDIA and OpenAI and Grok and Meta and Google, they're all United States based companies. So if AI does produce at a massive level in a short period of time, that's going to boost the confidence inside of the United States. And that would massively drive down rates. But no one knows. No one knows. So,
Sure.
so rather than, it goes back to like an old podcast we did talking about the circle of concern. All you need to know about that is like focus on what you control, which is yourself. And then you can kind of have an impact on what you influence, which is your people in your world. So,
Yep. Love it. All right. Well, that concludes another episode of the Real Estate Growth Network podcast. Thank you all for being here and listening. Till
yeah,
next
it's
time.
a
See you
pleasure,
later.
guys. Have an amazing week. And